Hey guys, back with a quick MoC guide, this time versus Ichor. As always, feel free to skip to whatever sections you need using the timestamps in the description below. My old Reaver guide is there also if you'd like to check it out. Speaking of which, it's been 5 whole versions since we've seen Flame Reaver, and my man's gotten 60% tankier. The Wave 1 elites have also gotten way bulkier, with the Fury Praetor still there and with 80% more HP this time. Luckily, this also means proccing War Armor deals more damage to it since it's based off its max HP, so it's not as scary as it looks. The 2 Blazes have been replaced with a tankier Ascended, so less enemies for AoE incentive units, but you still have those dots to worry about. Not very fun, especially when you consider that the max HP and on-hit heal buff in the previous MoC is gone. Good luck surviving is all I'll say, especially when the damage check in order to avoid Reaver's stronger attacks is a lot higher. As per usual, the MoC buff makes the already strong matchups even stronger, with units that have summons getting a 40% damage boost and also adding an extra Turbulence proc for every summon on field, up to 2. The Turbulence is surprisingly strong at killing boss mobs, due to wiping out up to 3/4 of their max HP, so you can plan around it to finish off Reaver's Vessels or Ichor Memosprite's Pheasants, something to definitely keep in mind if not zero cycling. All the available summoner options are shown on the right, with a special shout out to Permancer Teray, who makes anyone a summoner and thus gives this 40% damage buff to them. That being said, I wouldn't use units just because they're summoners. The buff isn't strong enough to justify using Jing Yuan if you normally wouldn't, for instance. Versus Ichor Memo specifically, the biggest question to answer is if your team can handle the big axe attack in Phase 2, which can deal over 5,000 damage to a single target, plus an extra DOT equal to half the HP loss. Shields, HP scalers, damage reduction, cast versus global passive, however you choose to deal with it, make sure you have countermeasures. Luckily, 2 of Ichor's strongest answers are free in the form of Danheng PT and RMC. With this being the shielding stage, Dante being the strongest shielder is great, along with the aforementioned bonuses he gets from transferring a summoned unit. RMC's Ice Toughness is pretty good for helping break Ichor, as well, on top of the more minor +1 Turbulence procs Mem gives per cycle, since, well, most people won't be taking advantage of the damage percent part. It's more a case of an already strong universal support getting some fun extra perks. Breaking Ichor is the name of the game, as it's basically an apocalyptic shadow boss, except it encourages shielding both defensively in order to survive its massive damage checks, and offensively, losing 60 toughness every time it hits a shielded ally with certain attacks. More on that later though. Back to specifics on how to tank the Guillotine. Here are the shielders in descending order of utility and sustain capabilities. It actually is possible to sustain with March and Japard, but for most players I really wouldn't recommend it unless you either have no choice or know what you're doing. Characters with revives, such as Phynon and Mighty, characters with high HP pools like Casterus, Evernight, Hyacine, Cyrene, Tribute, and Blade can just tank the hit straight up, with the first 3 and Blade even benefiting from the HP loss. And characters with damage reduction, like Firefly, Bailu, and Fu Xuan, can also handle a supposed one-shot just fine. Your mileage may vary with non-shielding sustains though. Supporting options that lower attack or damage in their respective archetypes can also be pretty useful, like Hyslins with DOT, Silverwolf with Akron or any off-element DPS, and Cypher and Gallagher with generally most teams. But again, I don't know if Gallagher is worth using over the free shielder. For sustainless runs, you may just need to resort to using Caster's global passive, especially since this nuke happens on turn 2 of Ichor's Phase 2, making it avoidable for most runs. I'll flash a couple of potential team building options that I think have strong matchups versus Ichor on screen right now, in mostly descending order, so feel free to pause and take a look. Ron Mei is actually quite the strong generalist, what with Ichor being a break boss and her still being a near exclusive source of weakness break efficiency, so if you have an empty slot you don't know who to fill with, definitely consider using her. Bonus points for extending Ichor's broken state for a longer damage window while it's still weak. Now, on to Ichor itself. Ichor Memosprite, Judge of Oblivion, has a little over 3 million HP for phase, a total toughness of 480 split across 4 toughness bars, meaning he's treated as having 120 max toughness for break-related calculations, and the blazing fast speed of 198. It's almost fast enough to act 3 times in the zero cycle. As for resistances, it has 20% res to non-weak elements, the boss standard 40% F-res, and 50 control res. Sorry, Anax said you're still one of Ichor's best matchups even if you can't CC it. It takes half damage while it still has toughness remaining, but takes 50% increased damage while broken, and also loses 20% of its max HP and gets delayed by 200% upon being broken. This means that at best, with no other sources of vulnerability, it only has 1.6 million effective HP for phase if only taking damage upon being broken. And at worst, if you never break it, factoring in the 0.9 times non-broken multiplier and the 50% damage reduction, it has a whopping 6.7 million real HP for phase. So yeah, please break this thing unless your vertical investment is in the right place. Expecting to chew through 480 toughness per phase naturally is pretty absurd if your name isn't a Naxa, so Ichor also has quite a few ways to reduce its own toughness. Occasionally, it'll spawn 2 Pheasants, and killing each one deals 60 toughness for a total of 120 for a full wave. When it locks onto a DPS and attempts to bite or saw them, hitting a shield will cause it to lose 60 toughness, even if the attack goes through said shield. Do note that this cannot reduce Ichor's toughness below 1. For some perspective, Ichor Memosprite will take 360 toughness by turn 2 of phase 1 from engaging with these mechanics fully, leaving it with just 120 toughness left. In the same amount of time in phase 2, counting turn 1 as its phase change turn, it will have 240 toughness left. Slightly higher, but still manageable. And of course, the more turns that elapse, the lower this number will continue to go. The Pheasants, unlike Reaver's Vessels, do attack, acting at 132 speed and with their first attack charging up all non-CC Pheasants that have spawned. The next time any charged Pheasant acts, all charged Pheasants will perform a single target attack against the same target, with any subsequent Pheasants dealing about 40% of the original damage. Not too threatening, but still annoying if they happen to hit the teammate that Ichor locks onto. With almost 300,000 HP, they're not exactly pushovers to kill either, though a low 30 toughness makes them easy to break if you're a fighter or physical DPS. Sorry, Rappa. As for Ichor itself, in phase 1, its first turn consists of a lock onto a random target, followed by a single target bite, remember the one that inflicts minus 60 toughness if shielded, and summoning 2 Pheasants, advanced by 90% and 50% respectively, allowing them to act pretty quickly. This is followed by another single target bite and another round of summons. By this time, the Pheasants, if not broken, should line up like so, leading to a potentially dangerous situation where all 4 Pheasants will attack a single target almost immediately, so please try not to fully ignore them. Turn 3 performs a single target saw instead of the bite, which, like the bite, can also be shielded for minus 60 toughness, but hits significantly harder. This is followed immediately by an AoE attack. In total, this will deal massive damage to whoever's locked on, even before the infamous phase 2 Guillotine, so do your best to break it before this turn. As a consolation prize, if any of these attacks do start depleting your HP, they also convert 50% of the damage received to corrosion, so you can heal some of it back up even without any actual healers on the team. As for phase 2, it opens with the same AoE mentioned in phase 1 and summons 2 more Pheasants. Turn 2 is the infamous Big Nuke, where you choose an ally to take a large amount of single target damage, taking 50% of the HP loss again as DOT at the start of their turn. Since I really don't advise assigning this hit to most characters with 1000 defense, here are the damage values for the Guillotine based on how much defense your carry has, before any potential attack and damage reduction debuffs are applied. Do note that this attack still deals 1700 AoE as well, and that it gives everyone 15 energy, so you'll purely want to assign this attack based on who's capable of living it the best. Turns 3, 4, and 5 are essentially repeats of its 3-turn cycle in phase 1. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Ichor itself. Hope you enjoyed this boss guide or found it helpful. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, as always, leave them in the comments below. Have a good day, and oh boy, Anomaly Arbitration is around the corner. I'm gonna have to lock in soon, aren't I?